All right. So, welcome everyone to the Impact Tribe conversation. This is where we meet, greet, and learn all about innovators that are bringing a positive impact to the world. My name is Ashley Bright, your host, and today I am joined by Michael Peel. Michael is a statewide sustainability director for Local First Arizona. Michael, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
And do you go by Michael or Mike? Do you have a preference?
No preference. Most people call me Mike.
Okay. Well, first of all, Mike, so why don't you, sustainability, I think that, there's certain connotations to that, environment, that kind of thing. But why don't you tell us a little bit about just kind of what that means for you and what that means for Local First and kind of what's the role?
Great question. Well, at Local First, we're all about strengthening the local economy to make it more diverse and inclusive and equitable and sustainable. So that's our core of our work as a locally owned business coalition and nonprofit coalition. So we work as a team across the state with various areas of teamwork around my area, sustainability. We also support local food system and local food economy work. We work with rural development, entrepreneurship development, and accelerator programs. Membership, of course, we're known for us, 3,000 plus members in our statewide coalition. So we do a lot as an organization. It's never a slow moment with this team. We're moving fast and at the speed of the businesses that we support. I like to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm familiar with Local First Arizona. I'm sure many are. I mean, you guys are doing some incredible stuff. And I've been seeing over the course of the pandemic, Thomas has been very visible on social media and really kind of helping people out, helping them navigate the challenges. And so another whole facet of what Local First is doing is in the realm that you're working on. And so I think when you and I first chatted a couple months back, we were talking about sustainability. I think for many people, when they say sustainability, they think environment. And so you touched on a bunch of other things there. So maybe just tell us a little bit more about kind of what sustainability means kind of across these different kind of communities and aspects and kind of the ins and outs of that, because it's so much more than just the environment that we may think of.
Great question. And at Local First and my team's efforts on it, we have a very defined approach to it. We have a very uniquely defined approach to it. And so the way we define it is a number of components. It's achieving balance holistically is one. So that means relationship building and connectivity between the personal to the land to the businesses and the nonprofit organizations supported. Then there's also the resiliency component, and that means absorbing a shock and ability to bounce back, which is very critical in these times, of course. Mm-hmm. And then restorative is a component, achieving a more stable and balanced outcome, and looking at process to be more about equity and community engagement for better outcomes as a result of a better process. And then regenerative is the other component that we include in the mix. So that's more about putting more back in than being taken. So really thinking about how to be in balance with the environment. And that's very data driven. So thinking about our carbon footprint and tracking on it, having that baseline information, and then being able to know the improvements made over time. To really benchmark across performance over time. So it's all of that. And teams put a lot of time into figuring out how to best define our work.
Wow. So there's a lot of complexity there. How long has this been sort of a role, and how long has this been kind of going on at Local First? Is this new, or is this an ongoing concern?
It's been going on for years. We've been doing this work through many programs that we have. We have the Arizona Green Business Certification Program, which is an ideal starting point for businesses, and getting a checklist approach going to how they can reduce their footprint and take action, achieve cost savings and recognition for their leadership. So that's been going on for years. And then we have our Scale Up program, which is thought of as our level 2, next level up for project planning, for really taking on a larger project and a data-driven project, we aim for a 20% reduction in could be energy efficiency, water conservation, waste reduction, transportation reduction. Could be looking at the supply chain to make it more localized and sustainable. It could be about having a better social impact with your sustainability work by working with other partners and prioritizing equity. So thinking about hiring locally and really considering how to maximize partnerships so that the impact on the community is greater. So it's that local focus and sustainability focus going hand in hand.
Got it. And so do you find, are people coming sort of seeking you out and seeking the things you're offering, or is it more that you're sort of bringing it to their attention and it's something new that they weren't aware of, or is it a mix?
It's a mix. Fortunately now, I think it took time to get to that point. And it's always first reaching out to new partners that we always lead with, new potential partners, new partners for the programs, and then also for participants for the programs. We run, for example, with Scale Up, the project planning program, we run a cohort every quarter now through support from the state of Arizona. So that means recruiting 10 to 15 businesses every quarter to run through that 7-week project planning period with us as a cohort, and then supporting their project for a year after. So there's a lot of recruitment to be done. And then word of mouth helps. Word of mouth helps with both Scale Up and the Arizona Green Business Certification Program. And we also are very engaged with coalitions across the state, such as Arizona Thrives, which is a new alliance that launched through the Nature Conservancy, focused on clean energy and clean air, and meeting better goals as larger goals by 2050 to really do a lot more as a statewide coalition. So all of that helps. And then regionally, we have many different partners. We take a regional approach as well, where we definitely have regional considerations and don't have it be a one-size-fits-all approach. Definitely have a green blueprint, so to speak, for everything we're doing, but we want to make sure we take into account the local needs and partners too.
Are you in the work that you're doing, are you, and the people that you're working with, local businesses and organizations, is it what's the word I'm looking for, sort of a hard sell in terms of like having to kind of overcome biases they may have, or a lack of trust, or a lack of knowledge or awareness, or are you getting, as you said, it's starting to kind of, the tide's turning a little bit? Are you getting more people that are kind of already on board and interested when they come to you, or is there arm twisting going on?
Another good question. It's been a mix. I think mostly, I'd say an increase in the last few years, where people are coming to us looking to make a change, and they know that it's important to prioritize it for differentiating their business models and for attracting new customers and engaging their employees. So I see an increase there over the years, and still a lot to do to meet new people and make the case for why, with their busy schedules, this would be worthwhile too. So I think it's definitely a mix around making the case that with how busy local business owners are, that this will be worth the time to learn about it, because we're always starting with education, and then action goes next. And so that's an involved process, and it's not an easy thing to do. Even with those who are coming to us ready to make the action happen, it's a big commitment. So we're there for that support as a team, and I'm really proud of my team for working so hard to be that capacity building support that's so needed.
Nice. And so is it, I mean, in terms of what local businesses are gaining or learning, is there, I assume there's a financial component where they're either saving money or they're, producing more. I mean, what is that balance you're finding? Or are there, let me rephrase that. Are there things that you're finding are kind of like real easy wins that people go, yes, I want that? Or is it a little bit more kind of nuanced in terms of like what each organization or business is gaining or interested in learning from it?
I think it's nuanced, and definitely some it's about the cost savings, and for others it's about the cost savings and the community impact, and for some it's about the environment completely, and then there are other benefits that go along with that by planning for reductions in your energy use, for example, can lead to cost savings quickly. So I
Mhm.
think it's a mix on that as well. And what we do really well, I think, as an organization, is meet people where they're at and not assume it's everybody's joining because of the environment first. I think many are. Some
Mhm.
are interested in that, and they also need to make sure it helps their business and that they can stay in business longer over time. That's always where we're coming back to, is to
Yep.
sustain our business network to be competitive with global trends and national businesses and non-local businesses. So I think it definitely strengthens the model when the time is put into it.
Mhm.
But people are busy, and we have to be really aware of their constraints and provide the resources as they need it, and give them more time as they need it too.
Yep. No, I love that. I mean, meeting them halfway. It's interesting. I have these conversations with my son. He's 13, and he's very, as you are at 13, he's very animated and like immediate and like, this is so stupid, and why don't they do this? And I'm, busy sort of saying, well, there's all these nuances to it and all these other things. And I still remember being in college and having a professor sort of explain to me like, it was like, well, why don't we just make this all electrified, and we don't have to have diesel trucks and all these things. It was like so simple. And then he kind of unpacked all the other aspects of who's impacted and the jobs and the, regulations, et cetera. And so
Right.
it's, it's never as easy as you think. And it's
Uh,
always, as it's sort of like, it's all these different components coming together. And as you said, sort of that nuance of kind of like, for some people there is an environmental component. For some people there is a cost saving. For some people it's long-term sustainability of their business. For some people it's a perception within the community.
sure.
And so I'm curious, have you got kind of, you've been doing this for a while. Um, are there sort of like buckets of kind of key selling points that you have in terms of like, there's these 4 buckets. It's one of these 4 is going to be the thing that kind of like ticks the box for them. Is it that simple, or is it, I'm thinking about from a communication standpoint, because I imagine sometimes you run into some resistance or pushback or a status quo bias. How are you sort of overcoming that, or what sort of stories are you telling?
Interesting question. It is a matter of a number of key reasons that we tend to lead with. So yeah, we will lead with cost savings, not primarily, and
Mhm.
it's not guaranteed that cost savings will be there without the planning and the investment. It can definitely happen though, and be very beneficial with the right approaches that we are all about with our programs and the toolkits and everything we have to offer for resources and support. So
Mhm.
that is definitely a key reason. I think employee engagement and customer retention and attraction is key as well for the support of the business long term and short term as well. But definitely thinking long term sustainability of that business. That's a big selling point. I think it's that promotion that goes along with it too,
Mhm.
for their leadership and
Mhm.
recognizing what they've done. It's definitely a way to differentiate within being a local business in Arizona. It's a great way to show what you're doing that's different than your competitors,
Mhm.
and really tell that story for them, and they can run with it and tell their story even more in a unique, memorable way. So I
Yep.
think it's those reasons, plus collaboration and the networking that goes along with it is a plus for sure. It's definitely all of those reasons are appealing to different people for different reasons, and some it's for all those reasons.
Mhm. Nice. So speaking of people's motivations and reasons, I'm curious, sort of, what was the journey that you sort of have been on to kind of arrive at where you are in your career, and what is it particularly about sort of this space and sustainability and the environment and equity that kind of really appeals to you, along this journey?
So it has been a journey. I've been working on sustainability for my whole career in some way. I got started early. I'm a native Tucsonan in Arizona, and so when I was in high school, I was fortunate to be mentored by the energy manager for the school district there, and for TOSD, and got
Yeah.
to learn all about energy auditing and solar, and a lot that I was intrigued by. I didn't know anything about it really until I got the hands-on experience, and It's where mentorship is so important. So I got to be exposed to it in a big way, to actually have hands-on project experience. And that really ignited me to want to run with sustainability for my career. And I started doing nonprofit work for my journey right out of college, and got to do some green job development at the nonprofit I worked for in California. And that was around the time of the stimulus funding under the Obama administration,
Mm-hmm.
and working on retrofitting of homes, for example, and job training that would go along with those retrofits. For example, LED lights in the homes can save a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And in lower income areas, we were able to do a lot there for getting people trained, getting people on projects with professionals to get that experience, and then helping those homeowners save money through these energy efficiency upgrades. So that was really exciting for me at that time, early on in my career, to work on projects like that, and learn about the nuances of it all, because it meant looking at pathways and understanding quickly where the gaps were, and as a nonprofit, figuring out how to meet those gaps. It's one thing to have investment for training, but then there needs to be mentorship further, and beyond a certification, getting hands-on project experience, and then figuring out where the needs are greatest. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot there to really bring it all together. Plus demand needs to be there. There needs to be that promotion that goes along with it, the communication, so that green jobs can be more in demand and created. So it's not as simple as put funding into it, put investment into it, and then the jobs will just suddenly appear. It is definitely not that simple. And even any one of these projects, it's just not that simple to get the project done and that's it. It can be a lot more nuanced than that, and it should be. It's not just about getting solar panels on the homes or wind turbines set up. I think it's important to consider, what are the materials involved? What's the life cycle of those materials? What's the opportunity for local hiring? What's the opportunity for looking at the collaborations that could occur with the supply chain being
Mm-hmm.
localized too, and partnerships to be developed there. So having a better process then leads to better outcomes. I'm big on that. That's actually what I'm doing with my doctorate right now. In addition to working at Local First full time, I'm pursuing my doctorate through ASU, and focused on sustainability and increasing equity and community engagement within sustainability projects.
Yep. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I touched on this earlier, but it's amazing just how complex. I think that we sort of look at our current systems and think about how, like, doing something new, whether it's the obvious things, the solar or electric vehicles or things like that. But this is 100 years in the making of what we have now. And it's always interesting when you hear sort of critics or people sort of saying, "Oh, well, there isn't an infrastructure there yet," or "Oh, this isn't here yet. This isn't that." And
Right.
it's like, yeah, but it's to your point. It's this longer term sort of long range thinking, and really understanding kind of what are the pathways to get people there. And it's like, kids going into high school right now, like, what are the opportunities for them in terms of, like, yeah, the obvious ones, job opportunities, career opportunities, but how do you even sort of seed and plant those ideas, in their mind? And it's as I've gotten older, I've come to have a much better appreciation of that, both the long-term view, but the long-term complexity and how to address that. And it's fascinating to me how many times it can be a little policy element. It can be something in an insurance document that these things that we don't think of, because we always think of the big things, the showy things, the Tesla, the solar panels, the wind turbines, the things like that. But all the underlying stuff, the legal components, the regulations, the tax rules, there's so much nuance that it's
Right.
and I would imagine that's sort of what you delve in most of the time, is sort of those nuances of the conversation.
Definitely do. We like to think as a team we go deep, and there's always more to explore. There can be rabbit holes here and good ones, and delving deep into it all and understanding how to make it the best kind of project it can be. And one example is pollution prevention, considering all the different facets of a project to ensure it's not having any adverse effect on the community is a process in and of itself. That's what I've been studying lately as I do my research for my doctorate, and how to have better processes developed, better framework developed for what a project should be as it gets mapped out. It could be very detailed early on for the better. And then to your point about mentorship and planting those ideas, the seeds of inspiration, I think the earlier the better. And a project could include mentorship with schools. Hypothetically, it could be that the students get engaged to learn about what that project is. And I am lucky I got to be mentored early on. It would have been great in school if I could have taken a sustainability 101 course as early as high school or earlier. And I wish there was more of that. I'd love to see more of that happen over time. I think that there's a lot of interest then, even more 20 years later. I'm seeing it's exponential growth. So I think that's encouraging, actually, that we have so many young people who are stepping up and they are focused on policy and advocacy and activism. We need that, and it's happening.
And there's the thing that younger people especially, there's this sense of they're not kind of being subtle about it. There's a very kind of in your face kind of element to it. And I love that. It gives me hope, because I think it's so easy to get kind of overwhelmed and feel like this is, there's so many challenges. There's so many facets to this. Where do we begin? And I understand how people feel that and then can just kind of disconnect. I don't know what to do. And it's encouraging when I meet people like you and others that are pursuing this and really getting into the weeds, really understanding the need for that nuance, that building of relationships, that long-term perspective. Because we didn't get into this overnight. This has been, a century or more in the making. And, now hopefully we don't take a century to unpack these things and deal with it. But, when I chat with my son, it gives me hope, because he's not apologetic about it. He's very, as young people are, he's very annoyed and wants immediate change. And
yes, and we need it. We need it as fast as possible. We need to bring these carbon emissions down. Yeah. And we also have to be, I think, getting more people to want to join in on that and not make it seem like it's doom and gloom all the time and that it's a crisis that can't be turned around. I think that part of the communication needs to get done better by really everybody. I think we all need to figure out how to tell the stories in more accessible ways. It's all in the weeds, of course, of what we're doing, but we have to find ways to make it accessible and inspiring and likely to get people to act. I think that they know they could do something along those lines. They could maybe take on a small project. They could make a small change in behavior, and then hopefully that leads to more, because it's not just about small changes in behavior, that's for sure. But we've got to start somewhere. The ladder can't be 2 giant steps up. It's got to be multiple steps along the way if we're going to get there. It's a lifelong commitment is what it is. And actually, we just started a partnership with an organization called Social Television Network that is a great local studio that is producing really compelling content. And they have a new series called Project Greenprint that we're partnered on, just launched a few weeks ago. So the whole idea of the show running twice a month is to make it more accessible for viewers to know who's doing what around energy and water and waste and transportation and much more, and including environmental justice issues, and also looking at community partnerships and actions everyone can take. So I encourage anyone tuning in today to check out Project Greenprint through Social Television Network with Local First Arizona. That's going to be running every 2 times a month. So excited about that coming up to help get the message out there more.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you're speaking my language in terms of how do we make this kind of more accessible to people? How do we make it sort of digestible, if you will. It's like, this isn't
Yeah.
everything under the sun. This is, we're going to focus on this issue because this is relevant to you. We're going to connect you through stories and sort of information with others that are doing this, and give you some real tangible actions that you can take. And
Great word for it. Yeah, to be looking at how others are doing it well, and then following along those lines is a big part of what we do.
Yep. And so let me ask you this, because you've been at this for a while. So are there things that come to your mind in terms of like, the biggest win you've had, or a moment that really stands out that kind of gives you hope, or kind of keeps you going? Because it can't always be easy walking this path, try to change everybody's sort of approach, the way they behave, the way they run their businesses, etc.
Recently, with everything that's happened in this COVID era, when we were figuring out quickly how to keep running our programs and going virtual for safety, maximum safety for the community, I was really inspired right away by how fast we were able to fill the cohort, and going from being in the classroom, which is great, to be in person and have that connectivity and brainstorming and all of that we've done for so much of what we do for so long, to then go to virtual as a cohort was a big leap, and we didn't know what that was going to look like at all. We were concerned, were we going to get a full cohort? Were we going to do that quickly, or would it take a while? We didn't know, and we were able to fill a cohort right away with people who were looking for something positive to focus on, and we're excited to spend the slower time for some, and still very fast-paced time for others, but all around a different time with how everything was getting done, for adding an extra project on and really thinking about how to maximize this very strange time to find a positive silver lining out of it where they could. So that was very inspiring for me, because I had no idea. I really didn't have expectations. I was putting it out there, hoping that we get the responses back the way we were putting the positive energy out there, and it really did get responded to that way. So it's it says a lot about I think that where people are at. And I know there's a lot of bad news constantly coming our way. There's also a lot of good news, and we have to dig for it, and we have to create it ourselves.
Yeah, I'm a big one for that. The glass is half empty, half full, and it's all about kind of where you focus your energy, and what you focus on becomes reality. And, I agree. It's so easy to get sucked into kind of the negativity, or just being overwhelmed, or just disconnect entirely. But what I take away from, the last 18 months is just the ability of people to adapt and come together and collaborate and look for the best outcomes. And it gives me so much hope, and it excites me every day. And I love that there's people doing the work that you're doing out there. And so just in sort of wrapping up a little bit here, how can people support what you're doing and learn more and help you guys increase your impact?
Thanks for that question. First, go to our website for all the information on what I've talked about with Local First today. It's localfirstaz.com. So if you check that out, you'll see there's a lot to get involved with, and definitely signing up for our newsletters is encouraged. I think that would be great if people signed up for getting notifications on everything that we're doing. And we have a lot of content to share on a regular basis. And then our programs as well. Our work with Scale Up and the Arizona Green Business Certification Program. There's a lot there to dig in on. So if you go to the website and go under environmental action, you'll be able to see all that we have available for doing the work that we do and getting connected to the public.
That's awesome. So one of the things I do when I kind of are wrapping this up is I have sort of 3 words I just kind of throw out there, and whatever comes to your mind, whatever this word means to you as it relates to kind of what you're doing. So the first word is inspiration.
I think inspiration. So just the one word back.
or whatever that brings to mind. I mean, what does that word mean to you and the work that you're doing? How are you inspired, or how do you inspire others? However you want to interpret that.
I love it. Yeah, for me, inspiration is this whole Local First Arizona team and the mountains that we've been moving this entire crisis from day one. So, yeah, teamwork for real is getting us to make the change that we need and meet the people where they're at, where they need it.
Excellent. Okay, second word, communication.
Communication, transparency, to me, that's really important in these times. Is talk about what we know, what we don't know. Let's figure out what we have to do to make changes and get more information. And I think being more transparent is the way to go. We need to know where we're at if we're going to get to a place of change.
Excellent, excellent. And then the last one is impact.
Impact, to me, that's collaboration all the way. To me, leadership is collaboration. That's got to be connected. Anytime we talk about leadership, it should be, how well do you collaborate with others? How well do you figure out how to bring what you do together with someone else's work and find some kind of connectivity, ideally, or at least find a connection somewhere else so that we can get further with climate action. And we've got to bring more people on board, and collaboration's key to that leadership.
Awesome. Yeah. So that is where my head is at in terms of impact, is just how do we collaborate? How do we share ideas? How do we cross-pollinate? How do we come together? Because, we all have to work together in our own way, some in this space, some in that space, some, in a big way, some in a small way. And collectively, we start to see that bigger, broader change that we want to have. And so with that, I will say thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we could connect this up. And thank you so much for the work that you are doing and the work that Local First is doing, and the collaborations and empowering solutions that you're bringing to the variety of different communities you serve. And I appreciate knowing you. And thank you so much for taking some time to join us today.
It was a pleasure. And please, everybody listening, take a look at the website, and you can contact me at mike@localfirstaz.com as well.
Awesome. All right. I just put up the Local First website there. So, all right, everyone, connect with Local First Arizona, connect with Mike, and learn how you can bring your vast amounts of knowledge and relationships to bear on this challenge that we all are facing. So, all right, Michael, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.